Welcome to Nerd Stop, your one-stop shop for all things nerd.
Hey, what's up, nerds? Welcome to Nerd Stop. My name is Josh, and today I'm going to be joined by my two beautiful co-hosts, Michael.
Hey there, guys.
And Spencer.
Hey there, Hodder. Hey dear.
So, quick announcement before we roll into the show. I just want to let everybody know that we do now have a YouTube channel up that we're going to be uploading all of our episodes to, just so you don't have to go through the hassle of dealing with SoundCloud if you don't want to, and eventually we plan on moving to other platforms for hosting as well. Alright, with that out of the way, today we're going to be talking about the Fallout series. Mostly we're going to be talking about Fallout 3 and up, but for those of you that don't know anything about the Fallout series, it was originally a computer-based RPG from an isometric perspective, so that's kind of like top-down but also off to the side. And it started in 1997 with Fallout, 1998 with Fallout 2, and then 2001 we got Fallout Tactics Brotherhood of Steel, which was a more tactical-based RPG where you could have other factions and everything like that. And it was also the first and only Fallout game to feature multiplayer. 2004 we also got Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, which was a more action-based RPG along the lines as Bard's Tale, if you ever played that. And then finally, 2008 we got Fallout 3, 2010 Fallout New Vegas, and 2015 Fallout 4 and Fallout Shelter. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to open up the floor for discussion on the Fallout games.
All right, well, you know, we were talking a little earlier. I think we have a nice little dynamic here because of who's their favorite one is. I mean, I'm 4, and the reason I like 4 the absolute most is what I like most about games is games that I can lose myself in. You know, I have a headcanon going, and Fallout 4 with the settlement building, with more or less, you know, choices you could make as far as your faction, it really let me pretty much go away from what the story was trying to say, and I kind of made my own headcanon. So in my biggest, you know, playthrough, the one that I finally finished the actual game with and spent the most hours on, you know, I created my own, like a faction of my own in my head, you know, called the United Settlements of the Commonwealth. And, you know, this is when I'd be, you know, driving to school or, you know, at work or something that's, you know, I'm thinking about what else is going on in the United Settlements. So that was the part I liked the most, is that it gave me the freedom. It was like a Lego set for me, and it really let me kind of make my own game.
So the settlements was your favorite part?
I love building settlements. You know, if you look at my... What is so funny about that?
Because literally everybody else hates it.
Really? See, I wasn't aware of that. Because especially with the mods that I have downloaded, mainly, you know, this big playthrough that I finally finished the game with was actually, I'm literally still playing it. It came out recently, so the mod that I really, 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 really like is Settlements by Kingath, and that's just, of all the mods that I have, if I could only choose one to play through with, that would be it. So I spent a lot of time building my settlements. Like, I have it on survival, and I have the better locational damage mod, and I don't know the author, so go look it up. It's awesome. Really changes the combat on all, but it makes it a lot harder, gives that survival element, really gets me into it, gets me immersed. But I still have the junk, like the loot. I have a cheat mod, essentially, that makes the loot, or the junk loot, 0 pounds. So that way I could just gather all this stuff, because most of my time is going to be spent building a settlement. And also, might I note, settlement building has gotten is much better with mods, especially with the Place Anywhere mod. Again, sorry, don't know the author. That makes it so much more playable.
No, I mean, I definitely know there is a crowd out there that's a big fan of the settlements. I mean, my wife, she didn't end up getting into Fallout 4, like when she was watching me play, until she kind of saw the whole settlement building thing, and then on my account, she kind of messed around in Red Rocket and eventually got to the point where I'm like, well, why don't you make your own Fallout thing so you don't mess with mine? So she ended up making her own, I guess, character on Fallout. She did a whole bunch of settlement stuff, and eventually she ran out of supplies to keep working on her settlement. So it kind of gave her that incentive to go out into the world and start playing the game and collecting more stuff, and eventually she just got really into Fallout along with me. And then along the headcanon thing, how you made your own faction. So I went with the Brotherhood of Steel just because I always go with the Brotherhood of Steel whenever I play a Fallout game. And romance options are a thing in Fallout 4, and I played a male character, and I romanced Paladin Danse.
I mean,
Buzz Lightyear.
He's a good-looking man.
So from now, like, since then, anytime I see Paladin Danse in any form of media, I automatically think that he's gay. And I kind of ruined it for myself now.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I again, doing the main playthrough now, actually going through all the stories, and, you know, Preston, I swear, has the hots for me, because every time I'm back at Sanctuary, he says something, and then the romance option comes up. I'm like, dude, I'm not interested. Me and Pipe's got a thing going on, all right? Just cool it. Jesus. But, yeah, no, I mean, it's a creative element, and, you know, Danny's like me, I guess, where getting out into the world and exploring and doing the quests and all that is secondary, is to actually building the settlements. Your incentive to go out is to build more settlements. So it's just the exact opposite, I'm apparently understanding, than most people.
Yeah, for me, my settlements were more just to store my shit.
Yeah. Well, that for me too, except when I get attacked, and then, like, I finally had to go get one of the mods that give you unlocked cases, because I got attacked by Sanctuary where my main junk pile is, and I was keeping it in the workshop. And then I was walking around, and then I see that one of my settlers has a rocket launcher. I'm like, okay, bro, you can put that away. You're gonna hurt someone. I go into his inventory, and he has 8 rocket launchers and 172 missiles on him. I'm like, yeah, put those away. And you know what? I did the same thing. One of the reasons I like the Fallout series in general is I did the same thing in Vegas. I wasn't to that point, like, I was a little younger when I first played, Fallout 3. And I hadn't gotten to that point where that's what I started enjoying about games. But for New Vegas, definitely I had my own headcanon there. It wasn't a faction, but it's like I was setting up my retirement fund. You know what I mean? Like, I had all this stash. I was doing everything so that I would have a good future. I was in that game. That's what I like the most, for sure.
See, that's what I liked most about 3 as opposed to 4 is I could make my character into really whatever I wanted, and I think that's what makes 4 not as good as 3 to me, because 4 you don't have the option to do literally whatever you want. You can stray a little bit, but there is a path that you end up having to follow. Whereas in 3, you can just say, no, I'm going to be an evil dickbag, and that's what I'm going to do. And I think having that option is what kind of defined the Fallout series for me. Now, obviously, I had only played 3, but it was such a big part of the game to me that not having that available in 4 already, like, instantaneously put a sour note in my mouth, and it was hard to put myself into the game and really enjoy it like I enjoyed 3, and it sucks so much to have the thing that I thought was the greatest part about the game kind of taken away.
Yeah, I mean, the lone survivors kind of got if you want to play him as Gary Lou, you're golden. You got it. But that's one of the things I'm like, again, this required mods, so it's kind of hard to say it's Fallout 4 that I like so much. What I like is an extremely heavily modded to the point where it's barely holding on. But, I have a mod, the Raider Children mod. That adds some serious depth for me. Not only do you save children sometimes, out in the waste, and I'll give them like a handgun and something, send them off to the orphanage. Literally, that's what the mod does. But it also injects raider children in various areas, and so you got that to deal with.
Kill them all.
Yeah, essentially, because, I tried knocking them out at first, but I was playing with better locational damage. One solid hit, and I was done. So I eventually, I'm like, it's me or them. And that, I was so into the game that I was like, damn.
Time to go full Anakin on these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That young thing.
No, I mean, I do understand, Mike, I understand where you're coming from with the whole being able to choose type deal. Because that was something that Fallout 3 really introduced, was the whole morality concept. And you're right, you could essentially do whatever you wanted just off the base game alone. I understand Fallout 4 obviously has a much heavier modding community now than we did back when these games, Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, originally came out. I kind of have always been bigger fan of like the whole faction-based thing and having like an evil and good and kind of like a neutral faction. I also like playing the giant dickhead my first playthrough of any game. So my favorite from the newer series from Fallout 3 forward was New Vegas, and my first playthrough I played as a part of Caesar's Legion, and I had the greatest time in the world just killing NCR patrols. Anytime I saw like a trader out on the road with his little caravan, I'd kill him and take his shit. I'd do slave driving runs for the Legion. It was amazing. And I don't know, I had a lot of fun. But I think what originally brought me in and kind of made Fallout New Vegas my favorite was kind of its attention to detail. So,
ooh, yeah.
I'd been playing Fallout New Vegas for a while. It'd been a couple years since it came out at that point. Because when did I say it came out?
Ooh, 8?
2010.
10.
So, 2014, I had to go do a training thing, and we had to drive to Las Vegas for this training. And we drove past Prim. Do you guys remember Prim from New Vegas? One of like the first towns you get to. Drove past it. There it was, a little dinosaur thing, the all the hotels, the roller coaster. It was all there, like in Prim, like it was in New Vegas. And it was kind of at that moment that I had fallen in love with New Vegas. And Fallout 3 did an amazing job doing the same thing too. Obviously, when you guys came out to DC and we went there, the first time I came here, I was able to kind of like tell where I was going based off of my memories from Fallout 3. Like, oh, the Washington Monument's there. The Smithsonian's this way, the Lincoln Memorial's this way, and the Jefferson Monument's this way. So, I mean, it is kind of that attention to detail that this series has that I absolutely fell in love with. And I can't really say anything for, like, Boston or that area, because I've never been.
They kept it up. If you compare maps and you compare images from game to real life, you will see very, very striking similarities. They're not, exact. Just for game reasons, you really couldn't do that. Plus, it's an alternate, history. And then everything's condensed. That needs to be kept in mind too. Everything's super condensed in terms of mileage. And apparently, actually, funny enough that you mentioned that, Bar Harbor. Not far from the Far Harbor DLC, the actual Bar Harbor that's based off of, they had a huge tourism spike after that DLC dropped.
That's really cool.
Yeah. All right. Now, the thing is so New Vegas I can go back and play, absolutely. But for 3, I cannot go back to it. Now, I liked it at the time. Honestly, I didn't play a whole lot of it, but I did enjoy the time that I played. I mean, and not a lot, meaning compared to the hundreds of hours I had on 4, and Vegas for that matter. The reason is the bleeding gunplay. First of all, no iron sights. Okay, that's not an advanced concept. I know I've seen like different videos online, like Oxhorn, his YouTube series. I think he had a video on why that was. And I get it, because they were trying to transition from that isometric shooter with that really cool, like, stop-motion combat system, and they wanted to go to the VATS, but also have the ability to do it real-time. So they didn't really think to put just purely player skill in on there. You were supposed to not maybe solely rely on VATS, like you ended up pretty much having to in 3, but really having a big element there. But now that, after, New Vegas came out, I was like, yes, and I played so much more of that because the gunplay was just so much better. I mean, you could look down the freaking iron sights. You could reload your own ammunition, which I thought was nifty, and I really wish Bethesda would have done that for 4. But then again, mods. And then, you get to...
Oh, sorry. We got other customization in 4, though, that kind of outshines reloading your bullets.
And that's the thing. Yeah, all that customization. Like, again, a lot of them are modded weapons, but even when I played Fallout 4 right when it came out, before any mods came out, and I liked it then. And I spent so much time just customizing my weapons. Like, I would get a new weapon, just go to the workshop to see what I could do with it. I loved those things. Those guns were my own. They all had names, Shooty Shooty, Mr. Blam Blam, the silliest names I could, and one of the Codsworth with his bowler cap on. I absolutely love the gunplay. I love the mechanics. The combat in 4 blows the other 2 out of the water, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, I can accept that. I mean,
combat in
I'm not going to say
definitely.
that.
Go for it, Mike.
I was going to say I'm not going to say that 3 is perfect by any means. It had what I believe is the epitome of what Fallout really is for me. But on that note, if we're going up to just talking more about those things, one of the biggest things that hits me, and like, I know that this is kind of a ridiculous way to approach games, but I kind of approach games like I do food. Like, I shouldn't have to put mods onto a game for it to be enjoyable. Like, I think the base should be something worthwhile, and then the mods should just be those extra little touches that just makes things nicer. Like, if you take shitty food and then put good sauce on it, you don't have good food. You just have good sauce on shitty food. And that's kind of how I look at 4. And, you know, other games, for example, in that matter. It's just, I want to be able to play the base game and enjoy it. And they go, okay, what are some cool mods to put in here to make this a different or more fun experience? And
well, 4 had good bones, though. 4 was still, in my opinion, still playable on its own. Yeah, the settlement system didn't just work like it was supposed to, and that absolutely required mods. But even if you didn't play mod with the settlements at all, it still had good bones. There's still a good story. There's still time to put into it. The DLC was really cool. I thought that the Raider thing, you know, here, if you want to access all the content of this, you have to be evil. It's like, no, man, I'm playing a Gary Lou, so I'm going to kill all of the Raiders in Nuka World, and then I'm missing out on a pretty good chunk of content.
Yeah, maybe I should reiterate myself. I'm not objectively saying that Fallout 4 is a bad game.
Okay.
I am saying that at its base, it doesn't hit me where I feel it should. And, you know, again, I'm probably one of the bigger outsiders here because I know a lot of people really enjoy 4. But, again, to me, Fallout means I can do anything. And 4 simply does not give that to me at its base level. Or even really at its mod.
I think 4 was more focused on the narrative, though. They had a story in mind that they wanted to tell. They had
and I can
a couple
appreciate
different endings. So I think that's kind of why they didn't go with as much of an open-based system like you had with New Vegas or Fallout 3, because they had a story that they wanted to tell. They wanted to tell the story of Sean and the Institute and everything like that, and they had just their idea of what they wanted the players to do. So they gave us like a left and a right lateral limit, and they said, all right, play within these bounds.
And from a design standpoint, the reason that you do that is, okay, say, I'm dungeon mastering. I have this epic thing where the players are going to be able to do such cool things. And in order to get to those really cool things to do, they need to go at least pretty much in the right direction. If I get railroaded, well, everything's just fucked. Everything's all off the rails. And when you're designing a game, you can't be like a DM, and just kind of make things up on the fly, rework it for next session. You have this set amount of content. So the really cool moments that you had in that story, if you had more options, the more options that you had, the more branches that you had, the less cool every single one of those would have gotten, because it would have been spread out. You wouldn't have been able to blow up the bloody Institute. Spoilers! You wouldn't have been able, the Pridwin, if you didn't go Brotherhood of Steel, blowing that sucker up. The big, cool story events.
Brotherhood of Steel did not blow up the Pridwin.
That, if you didn't go Brotherhood of Steel, then you blew up, No, they blew up their own ship. Yep. I guess we're done here,
thought
guys.
that's what you were saying. I was like, what the? I'm like, I don't remember that. And I went Brotherhood.
I was so tempted to go Brotherhood. But then I was like, no, I'm creating my own faction. I am the leader of these people. Call me El Duce!
But you were
like
the
I said,
Minutemen.
4, I'm not saying is objectively bad. But to myself and the other people that I'm sure out there that enjoyed 3 for the same reasons I did, 4 is just... It's just hard to play, I guess. Like, again, it's a good game. It doesn't hit me in the spot that I want it to, in a spot that I had anticipated because of playing 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I get you. I can completely understand that.
Yeah, and even Vegas had, a lot of big different routes you could take. Now, granted, it's hard to compare 3 and 4 in Vegas because it's a different company, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big difference in 4 that you were only given the illusion of choice, and I'll admit that. But again, my brain worked outside of those limits that they provided to me.
But the story, though, was awesome in Fallout 4, and they had so many great just cinematic moments within those stories. Like, I remember killing what's-his-face. Jesus, I can't remember his name. The guy that...
Kellogg.
Kellogg. Yeah, killing Kellogg, and then walking outside after that and seeing the Pridwin for the first time. That was the first time in that game where I was like, oh my god, that is awesome.
Yep.
And then later on, I'm lucky enough that me and my wife were kind of playing through the story at the same time. So I got to see two different stories unfold at the same time, so I got to see all their set pieces. So obviously I saw all the Brotherhood of Steel stuff, assaulting the Institute using Liberty Prime, and then I saw her play as the Institute assaulting the Brotherhood of Steel. It was a good time, and I think the set pieces were just very well done, and the story both ways was very well done, as well as kind of, I don't know, a bit mind-fucky at sometimes, like with the whole Sean thing. Turns out he's actually father. I mean, I don't think it was that big of a surprise compared to other games, but for Fallout, you're kind of like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, and I think that they didn't expect that to be as big of a shock, because, I mean, you kind of just got that feeling. Well, then again, I'm saying this having only literally earlier this week, played through the damn campaign. We're going to talk about this. God. No, seriously, I've spent, look at my Steam library and how many hours I have. Only the last couple hours I have actually spent going through the campaign. That's me on settlement building. I haven't even done the DLC. No shit. Like,
yeah,
I've done
the world. Oh my god, Spencer, 423 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any of the DLC.
Well, so
in like 8 months.
Danny went Institute her first playthrough?
She went Institute.
Whoa! See, the person you played through with your first... I went Railroad, like, my first time I was really doing it at all. I was messing around with everyone at once, kind of bring out of being a slut for factions. But I think Railroad is my thing, though.
I was also kind of achievement whoring my first time playing through Fallout 4, so I'd play each faction up to the point where I had to make a split. And then, obviously, once the split happened, I'm like, I'm going with the Brotherhood, because that power armor dough and Liberty Prime. Democracy is non-negotiable.
Better dead than red. Alright, so we kind of covered the games. I don't know, but what's really cool is the amount of stuff beyond. Like, just talking in terms of fandoms, I think Fallout is really cool. I mean, there's so much stuff. I mean, you look at my desk here. I got all this. I got several Power Armor pop figures. I got the Nuka World like posters put up with the space suit girl. You know, you've got people who, like, when Fallout 4 first came out, you had a guy that sent Bethesda a bottle caps.
Bottle caps.
Yeah, it's the fandom for it is awesome.
Yeah,
and now we've got RPG coming out, tabletop.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I forget the name, but there's a I think it's a miniature war game / RPG from what I've kind of looked at, but they're like really high quality models and they're really cool.
I think a lot of that though comes from Fallout's lore. Like honestly, like just looking at it, if you look at just the base, there's a lot of story to take in. But once you start digging, there is a lot of story to take in. I mean, granted, not Star Wars level of story, but it's still a metric fuckload.
You got to compare the amount of time. You have to compare the amount of time that Fallout has had to build this lore compared to Star Wars. The budgets, you know, the people involved. There's a massive dichotomy there, and yet it's so deep. Just my playthroughs, like I'm one of the guys that checks every nook and corner of the games, you know. And not only am I looking for neat loot and I pick up all the junk, but also I'm reading every terminal. And I've discovered that I started watching, you know, Oxhorn's YouTube videos on this. Awesome lore videos. And I've had to be watching his because not only does he cover stuff that I never even touched, including, New Vegas and 3, stuff I didn't even know, but he's going over stuff that I've already gone over, and he's showing me new things. And there's so many levels of depth there. Even like the Mysterious Stranger has a good amount of lore to him. Like,
I haven't read anything on him.
Oh, yeah, no, he shows up in all the games so far, actually. He shows up in every single Fallout game. And he's always roughly, except for Fallout 1, I think, he was always roughly the same character. And in New Vegas, there's a lot of reason to believe you meet the son of the man that is the new Mysterious Stranger, but you don't really know who the Mysterious Stranger is. Maybe it's someone that picks up a magic revolver, and then they're just cursed to apparate around the world and shoot at people. And, you know, he has no moral compass. Whoever the player character is playing as, the Mysterious Stranger is going to end up popping them, going to pop up there as enemies. And then Nick Valentine actually has a thing where if you've ever had the Mysterious Stranger perk and then had Nick Valentine with you at the time, you actually get unique dialogue. Because Nick's been hunting him for a long time and actually has logs on him. And then when he shows up, he's like, damn, he was just here. So, and that's another thing about Fallout 4 that I like particularly, and I know 3 did this, and I know Vegas did this as well, but I think 4 took it to the next level, is companions were a way to explore more lore, because they always had things to say, out in various situations.
Well,
like
and,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, another example, bringing Strong with you when you brought the FEV Cure to that guy, the Institute guy that helped you get into the Institute. There's actually a whole dialogue that happens between those two if you bring them.
Well, and I was actually thinking as you were talking about the whole continuity between all the games, and you mentioned the what am I saying? Oh, the companions, and it kind of made me think of McCready. He was a little kid. He was a little kid in Fallout 3, and he was I believe he was the mayor of that the little kid settlement in Fallout 3, right?
Yep.
So that was another thing, yeah. And I was just thinking about the continuity as you were talking.
Yeah,
and how
continuity
all these games,
is always good.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, you talk about I'm going to go back to Fallout and Fallout 2. So the main premise to get you out of the vault in the original Fallout was that the water chip for your vault was broken. So you have, I think it was like 150 days to go out and find this new chip and save your vault and everything like that. Well, Fallout 2, I forgot what gets you out of the vault, but there is a special encounter mission, and you're the son or the child of the original vault dweller.
You're looking for the Gek in that one.
You're right. You were looking for the Gek in Fallout 2, but you're the child of the original vault dweller from Fallout. There's actually a mission in there, or a special encounter, where you time travel and you go back in time to the original vault from Fallout 1 just before the game takes place, and you break the water chip to get your mother and or father out into the world so then you can be born.
Huh.
Damn, that's cool.
Yeah. And then not to mention Harry, the tree from Fallout 3. He was a character in Fallout and Fallout 2 beforehand.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
There's a big continuity with him.
Oh, I didn't know that, because that's got to be one of the more depressing stories in all of Fallout, I got to tell you. Like, that's one of the more heart-wrenching decisions that I've ever had to make in a game. Like, do you resign this person to a more than a lifetime of torment, or do you bring life back to this whole area? Does the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one? Like, oh, that was good. And I see why, Mike, you like 3 for that, because I didn't get that feeling. In 4, those kind of decisions felt kind of forced. But in 3, man, you were just, what do I do? You know?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Moral
dilemma, especially in games like Fallout where you're able to immerse yourself, seem so much more daunting than in, like, if you're playing a game and it's just like, hi, you're a bad guy, you're probably going to do bad things. It's like, okay. But in Fallout, the choices you make not only directly affect the game, but, I mean, you design your character. Most people design their characters around themselves, and you're kind of putting yourself into this game, and you really have to struggle with that whole, like, do I actually want to do this? Is it something I should do? I've been mostly good. Do I want to do something bad now, or vice versa? And just having those options there, that total freedom for what you could do. You could be a good guy all the way up to the end, and it's like, haha, I'm actually a supervillain, and just fuck everything up. Or, again, vice versa. Having that ability is so incredible to me. Being able to forge my own story makes that game so much more immersive. And it's hard to find games like that. You don't find them.
Where evil, that's a hard thing to do, though. Evil done in a fun and interesting way is super hard to do, because most of the time, like, especially in these freeform RPGs, they might give you that karma system, or they give you options that are evil. But really, what I find most people playing with that when they're playing that quote-unquote evil build is they're just being chaotic stupid. I'm just going to run around murdering everybody. No, man. Okay, so even in my, like, main character that in the main playthrough that I'm still totally on, every once in a while, I'll shoot a good guy. For one reason or another. It's not something I might want to do, but the situation comes down to it. Like, one of the random encounters out there, you walk into some scavengers and like, hey, this stuff's mine. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, these are fine. These are normal people. These are fine people. But, like, I think, so that my character has that evilness to him. He's not like, I'm going to murder on everybody. I'm generally good, but when it comes down to it, number one, baby. And I think that games don't really guide players to do that. You kind of have to almost be good at writing a story yourself to be able to do that without, and again, Fallout 3, it gave you options that, there were actually dilemmas and things like that. Whereas 4, and kind of branching off a bit here, Skyrim also had kind of, you were chaotic stupid was the only option you had.
Yeah, almost comedically evil.
Yes.
The guy that, ties up the girl and puts her on the train tracks.
Snidely Whiplash.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost to that point where, with a lot of games that give you that moral compass, like, not to talk any smack on Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, but there wasn't, you could do the morally gray choice, but a lot of times, like, if you were a good guy, you were altruistic, everybody before me type good guy. But if you were a bad guy, it was almost comedic to the point where you were just doing stuff for the sake of it being evil.
What a cute little bunny rabbit. I'm going to kill it.
Why? Because I'm funny. Force lightning. And another thing, also another little side note about KOTOR. Loved that game. Let me just throw that out there. But the Dark Force powers were so much cooler, so much more powerful. Why can't they
more
be
useful?
Yeah. Jeepers creepers. So nope, I have to play Gary Lou. So fine, whatever.
But back to Fallout, though.
Back to Fallout. Another odd, I've been wanting to mention this for a while, so I'm going to inject it where it doesn't fit. Iguana bits. Okay, iguana stick. You ever notice? Ain't no iguanas running around. Well, it turns out in Fallout, I think it was 1, maybe 2. Again, I was watching an Oxhorn video on this. I hadn't played it myself. Iguana bits are people.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No. In Fallout 1, or 2, again, and I recommend anyone who, wants to verify this myself, watch Oxhorn's video on iguana bits. But you go to this doctor in one of the towns, and he offers to perform like surgery on you, but then charges you an insane amount afterwards. But then you go explore his basement, and you find that there's bits of people stuffed in a box. And then you go find the person, the delivery that was meant to, because you talked to this character in the basement. And then, sure enough, sure shit, he's selling people. Like, not all the food he's selling is people, but the iguana bits, Soylent Green, iguana bits are people.
Huh.
That's pretty fun.
That's kind of nifty.
That's interesting. I mean, that's kind of something I do. Another thing I like about the Fallout series is it's a game, and it does take itself seriously at the times that it needs to, but it's also not above making a joke about certain things.
You can still put a bowler cap on fucking Codsworth every time.
Well, yeah.
Every time.
And there was the reason that the whole Wild Wasteland perk even became a thing is because some developers wanted it to be this gritty post-apocalyptic game, while other developers like, well, let's throw some jokes in there. So they compromised and they made it so it's going to be, at the beginning, a gritty kind of post-apocalyptic game, but you can take a perk and you can kind of turn it more funny than anything. And that's where you get, the suave gambler's hat in the fridge in Fallout New Vegas because it's Indiana Jones.
Yep. That was the first thing you came across if you actually had that perk on. Yeah, no, I think that was a really cool way to do it. And I always played with Wild Wasteland because I truly enjoy that humor too.
Yeah. Because it's kind of dry humor, and it's just funny to me.
It's as dark as it gets. The situations that you find skeletons in sometimes in Fallout 4, it's just, you do not get more morbid than a pair of skeletons that have died of nuclear fallout in a compromising position.
Yeah.
And then there's the thing with the giant teddy bears and the clapping monkeys.
Those are fun. But I mean, it can get silly too. Like if you ever played the Big MT from Fallout New Vegas, there's a mining site there where they're mining like these weird ass crystals. And if you go over to the mining site, you actually see all these lawn gnomes with like mines mining. And it's not all these lawn gnomes. It's 12 for Snow White and 7 lawn gnomes, and it's supposed to be Snow White and the 7 dwarves.
Freaking Old World Blues. All right, the main bad guy in Old World Blues, he was hilarious. Did you ever play that DLC?
That was the one in the casino?
That might have. No, yeah, that is Old World Blues. No, the one I was talking about was the one where shoot. I don't think it was the moon, but you, like, went to this thing where your head got placed in a robot. You're just a brain on a robot body. Jeepers. I forget the DLC, but it was for New Vegas, and it was great. And there was a robo brain in it, and he was just he was just strung out on mentats at all times, and he was just manic and intelligent at the same time. It was flippin' hilarious, and I absolutely loved. I love the characters. I love the humor that the characters have in them, for sure.
Yeah, that was the big MT.
Was that the big MT?
Yep, that was the big MT.
Oh, my bad. There you go. Then that, that's got to be what. Now, granted, I haven't played all the Fallout DLCs because I never get around to it because I spend so much time in the main game, 400 something hours, and still haven't done Far Harbor. But that so far was my favorite. It's my favorite DLC so far. All right, so okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying while we were talking about the big MT and a little bit of the humor, I kind of wanted to bring up probably one of my favorite references in the Fallout series, because there is a lot of references to pop culture in the Fallout series. But I've said in the past, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so maybe this ranks up there with my favorite, because I'm also a big Lovecraft fan. But in the big MT, do you remember those spacesuits that had the skeletons in them and they'd attack you?
Yes.
Okay.
Scared the shit out of me, by the way.
At one point, one of them says, "Hey, who turned out the lights?" And that's a reference to a Doctor Who episode where these people are in their spacesuits and they get attacked by like these shadow creatures and everything like that. And when they die, they still have this radio on them, and their kind of like electromagnetic spirit or something like that is still projecting itself through the radio. And like one of the characters, after he dies, he says, "Hey, who turned out the lights?" And they turn on the light of his internal on the internal of his helmet, and it's just this skull inside of a spacesuit. So it was kind of a cool reference to Doctor Who.
Got to be my favorite, and it was first time walking into Diamond City. There's a noodle shop. It's like, hold on a sec. We're sitting here talking about synths. There's a noodle shop in the middle of the city with a robot that speaks Japanese. Okay, that's not Blade Runner at all. And then actually, if you go to the mass fusion containment shed near Lake Pandatakarpakape, there's you go to the top of that, and no shit, the first time I found this reference, it was raining in the game. And you look on top of that roof, and then there's a synth body slumped against the wall, and then there's a human body in a leather jacket next to it. And it's like, I actually sent out a snap that night, if anyone remembers, getting that said, "All these things lost to time like tears in rain." I just loved those, and that's just scratching the surface. I'm just
he ad-libbed that?
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that he had.
Yeah, that's why Harrison Ford's sitting there like, what the fuck is he saying? Because that is not what he was supposed to say at all.
And I mean, that's definitely not their first reference to Harrison Ford ever in Fallout.
Oh God.
Yeah, because I already brought up the whole Indiana Jones and the refrigerator thing, and then they make even another reference to it in Fallout 4 with the little kid that was in the refrigerator that survived for 200 years.
Billy the kid. Billy the kid in the refrigerator. Yeah.
That was actually a really fun mission.
Yeah, I love that. It's fun if you take. You sold them, of course you did. Fuck the Gunners. That one's actually fun if you take Kate with you. Her reactions are interesting because she had a similar history with all that. Kate's a bitch. She's I don't like her. I don't like Kate.
I bring dog meat because he doesn't judge me when I cannibalize stuff.
Can I have some? Here's just a little side note. Here's a bunch. Okay, one of the things that bothers me about Fallout 4 is, okay, it's a massive game. Took a lot of time to develop. There's gonna be some cut content. But I think some of the cut content in there, or the changes that they made kind of late in development, bother me. For example, you notice that when you take the Lone Wanderer perk, that gives you bonuses for not having a companion, but Dogmeat doesn't count as a companion. Mm-hmm. That's because and Dogmeat has a lot of perks for him, specifically for him, but not really any other companion has specific perks to them. That's because Dogmeat was supposed to be was originally designed, like up until the late stage of development, was meant to be your constant companion. And he didn't really count as a companion in terms of other perks and things like that. And then other companions you could have with you on top of Dogmeat. So, yes, Dogmeat is pretty much the most worthless companion you can get out of everyone, the least interesting in the long run. But that's because he was always supposed to be there as kind of...
Shut your mouth.
You're a terrible human being.
Puppy.
Best.
He gets in my way. Okay, he whines all the time. Says, "Hey, look at this! Trot, trot, trot. Oh, it's a piece of junk. Thanks, dog meat."
He's just trying to be a good dog.
Don't make him
You
sound
heart
like
this beast.
Don't make him sound like he's Navi. Hey, listen.
Might as well.
Back fucking whore.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a German Shepherd guy. I like my terriers, man.
I know there was something else you wanted to bring up.
Dunwich Boars. Like, that was a cool one. Like
Dunwich
that.
Boars, absolutely.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Again, not if we didn't catch this from the last, we've mentioned it a couple times so far. I'm not a fan of horror. Okay, life is scary enough. Okay, I don't need it in my entertainment. So when I say that quest, it wasn't even really a quest. It was an unofficial, like unmarked quest.
Yeah, you just stumbled upon it.
Yeah, that scared the crap out of me.
Good.
That gave me that Lovecraftian horror feel that I'll never experience otherwise because I refuse to read one of those books because I will shit my pants. Or go insane one of the characters.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I'm a big Lovecraft fan, so anytime there's a Lovecraft reference made, I'm instantly all over it. So yeah, Dunwich Boars. I know there was another reference, I think, in Fallout 3 to the Dunwich horror story as well. And then they also, the Pigman's Gallery. That whole quest line was a reference to Pickman's Razor by Dunwich Horror, by H.P. Lovecraft.
I didn't know that. That was an interesting quest, that was a side quest kind of thing too. That was really cool.
You sidelong ended up saving a serial killer.
Yeah, actually, because I have better locational damage on, the one time I found that quest, one shot will kill you, the raiders took him out before I could do anything, so that decision was made for me.
Oh, no, I saved him.
Yeah, I mean, just kills Raider. And there's a nice little moral question. He's a psychopathic murderer, but he only kills Raiders, so...
Is he really even that bad of a guy?
Yeah, but look at your character. You straight up genocide people.
Raiders, but I don't... Here's the difference. Don't torture them. Whereas Pickman's flayed them alive. So, although I will admit to kneecapping every once in a while. Just for shits. Because, I mean, after a while, you just start calling your shots. Kneecap, crotch, But...
that might be as bad as torture.
Butters! You don't shoot a guy in the dick! Dunwich Boars actually brings up an interesting point because the Fallout universe, of course, obviously it's sci-fi, plasma weapons. Okay, sure. But it also brings in another element of kind of fantasy, with the Dunwich Boars. That was an element beyond, and some of the side quests, like the minor side quests, like Radio Station Bravo or something like that, there's these minor little things that are supernatural kind of in that world. But there's also the element of science fiction in the fact that there's the fucking Zetans, okay?
Yeah.
They watch us. They are up there. All right, and it's undeniable. So I think it's cool that they add that element of super sci-fi. They're not taking themselves too seriously, I don't think, with the fucking Zetans that I think are awesome.
Well, the thing is, like, going back to how this lore is kind of deep, too, like the magazines you find and everything within Fallout 4, there's one of them, I don't remember what it was, but the little title on the magazine was like, "Are the Zetans out there? Are they real?" It's pretty much like, the National Enquirer, and it was people like, these are from 200 years ago talking about the Zetans, and we can see that through that 200 years, yeah, they still watch us. They watched us destroy ourselves.
And no, they're just...
This is a cool thing. They're also terrible at landing, apparently.
Oh, yeah, no, they're very bad at it. I mean, there's one in D.C., they crashed a little later, just outside Boston, yeah. And I don't know if there's a reference in any of the previous ones about them. But
I don't either. I think there is. Actually, I want to say that there is in Fallout 2. You can find a crashed ship. I know you can find it. You can find a TARDIS in Fallout 1.
Huh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I know there's also an entire DLC based on them where you...
Yeah, Mothership Zeta. Or Zeta.
Another one I never played, which I always intended to, but I just got caught up in doing other things.
I never played Mothership Zeta as well. I've definitely done Operation Anchorage and...
Oh, yeah, that was so cool. I love that one.
The Pit. I think Operation
Never
Anchorage
played
is
the
probably my favorite from Fallout 3.
Yeah, I actually just watched another video on that last night. I got Oxhorn's videos. I watched that, and it covered some stuff that I kind of missed, like the fact that like the recordings that you found in there. Like if you play through Operation Anchorage, you'll find that a lot of those recordings are kind of cheesy. I mean, it's like a 1944 like American World War II movie. You know, when the war was still going on. It was pretty cartoony and what all the characters were doing. And turns out that's exactly what it was meant to be. It was like propaganda for the soldiers that were going through this. And I thought that was a cool little element. All right. So kind of, we'll kind of get into our closing notes here. There's one thing we haven't mentioned yet. I've mentioned a lot of modding, and, I get all my stuff out the Nexus, and the wonderful, 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 wonderful modding community on there. And I'm sorry for a lot of the mods that I mentioned, and I don't know off the top of my head the names of the people, but you do good work, all of you. But what we haven't mentioned so far is the Creation Club. Now, when the Creation Club was first announced, I would say that I was hopeful. I was thinking, okay, so we're going to get some really high content. I mean, think about it. These people doing this stuff for free have been releasing this amazingly high quality content. What if you paid them? Capitalism at its finest. Let's see how this goes. Well, okay, the system, I think, has potential. I think that honestly, Bethesda could have opened it up to mod authors and said, you have a really popular mod, let's monetize it. Let's steal it. But they didn't. They could have. They could have offered, modders this money, and some of them would have taken it. But they chose not to, because that would have screwed over the community, and absolutely, I'd have been mad. That's for sure. So they're trying to do it without that and trying to make completely new content with these people, and I think that they're getting there. Like, every drop, there's the most valuable mod that's on the Creation Club, and I'm just talking, the Fallout 4 one. The most valuable one is getting more valuable every time. Like, the most recent one for us right now was the weapon skins, and those are actually pretty decent. The furniture stuff, the backpack mod, again, sorry, don't know your name. The backpack mod on there is probably the best on there, in my opinion, because it's just so utilitarian, so awesome. I believe the way they've gone about it has been lackluster at best, where they've just been taking content, ripping it from other places, and throwing it on here for $, when there are better mods out there for free. I think that in time, what we need is more mod authors to be willing to work with the Creation Club, to take this time, to take this pay, and take the resources that Bethesda is going to maybe help you with, and create good content. And I think that the mod community might have almost shot itself in the foot a little bit by just seeing paid mods and refusing to go with it. I think that if they worked, and I'm not one of these modders, I don't have the time, skill, or energy to do that, but I think that if they were to maybe work with them, I feel like there's a potential for a lot of really good content out there, and I think the Creation Club still has potential. I still have hope.
I mean, I don't know. I can't talk too intelligently on it. I don't know a whole lot about the Creation Club. I played Fallout 4 when it first came out. I've picked it up here and there in the following year since it's come out, and I really haven't paid much attention to any of the politics that have gone into the Creation Club and modding in general. I'm just more amazed that we have gone this entire episode without talking about nudie mods.
Oh boy, we haven't talked about CBBE. Yeah, no, it's a must. I gotta have my harem. I build my mansion on the manor. The Croup Manor is where I build my mansion. It's away from Sanctuary. Got my own big thing. Okay, and then there's another mod out there.
Hide his shame.
Because they're mine. Haram. Haram means forbidden. All right. So I give them the one ring to nude them all, which is another one of those mods out there, and I just got all these CBBE naked women running around. And that's my roleplay. That doesn't break immersion for me. If I was the most skillful combatant in pretty much the whole world at this point, if I was rolling in the caps, like I got 100,000 caps on me just from messing around, if I built all these places by my bare hands and I'm gonna get some bennies from that, you best damn believe that I'm gonna say, hey honeys, you come over here, it's a good job, you're gonna have good benefits. You just gotta, you're gonna eat like a king, queen, you just gotta be naked. So it's the only requirement.
Okay, Genghis.
In
So,
2300, most of the population of Earth will be related to my character.
Oh, Jesus. So, nudie mods do not break the immersion for you.
No, they do not. And in fact, it's again, this is going to sound super weird, but hey, no one sees my face. They just know my name. When I loot armor or clothing off of a raider, then they're naked, and I don't know, it almost humanizes them a bit for me. It's like suddenly it's not a Barbie or a Ken doll, it's a human body, and it's like, oh, that's a dead person that I shot. It's just that brief moment, that very fleeting glimpse of immersion for me. So nudie mods for me, on top of having Baharam, is that humanization to it. I'm not justifying. Okay. Don't judge me.
Mike, what about you? Anything about mods or the Creation Club?
Yeah, on the Creation Club, I'm like Spencer. I feel like it could be something good, but being the ever bright optimist that I am, I also just can't help but not only admit, but expect it to go wrong. We've seen so many other paid benefit games, or pay for benefit in games, and pay for extra things in games, just take a really shitty turn, DLC the same day of release, loot boxes, things like that. So it seems to me that every time we involve extra money in games, it always ends up being shitty. But that's also kind of where I'm like, well, hopefully if the community gets together and really talks about these things and takes the time to go back and forth, we can make it something worthwhile, something that's more beneficial. But again, I can't help but see that every time we've seen extra money go to games for something, it always ends up being something shitty. Except for the few games where it's like you can buy cosmetic things. If you have, just, this makes you look cooler. Sure, whatever. You can support the developer, you can support the modder, so on and so forth. But every other time, it's just so fucking bad. So I'm back and forth on it. Even right now, I can't choose a side.
Well, right now there's really no incentive to get the mods. I mean, again, the skins mod is about the only thing you can't get for, and then even then you can get weapon skin mods. Every single mod on the Creation Club you can get for free. The thing is that another element of it is that some people kind of are weirded out by the act of modding. Like getting Nexus Mod Manager, getting that all set up, you don't have to be really tech savvy to do it, but it is daunting. So having the ability to just go right from the launcher of your game, in the main menu rather, and you have the ability to not only download from Bethesda.net, but to get these mods. These are decent quality mods. There's better mods out there for free. A lot of times, like the Chinese stealth suit, the one for Creation Club is but the free one out there is blow your mind, amazing. Sorry, I don't know your name. So it really just it makes it modding a little more accessible. And yes, they are monetizing it as well, but they do have Bethesda.net available still. And I think the monetization kind of helps because they're still doing updates, for Fallout 4. It kind of helps them. And plus, I want Bethesda to have money because I want their next game.
Yeah, right.
True. I see a lot of really good areas in which monetization could go, but I also see the really bad areas in which monetization has already gone. And that's the thing that keeps pulling me away from it. And I mean, like you said, there are really, really good mods out there for, Fallout and other games as well that are free. So it's like, what am I going to get out of a paid mod that I can't already get out of a free one that's just fucking incredible?
Yeah, not much yet. And that's why I'm hoping in the future that gets better.
Yeah, especially with things like, look at things like Patreon, too. We have a lot of modders who are just like, hey, this is free. If you want to donate $1 or $2 to me, by all means. And, I think... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, even stepping away from Fallout in general for those mods or anything like that, that extends to other games, too. Like, Mystical OS, the dude that does Deadly Boss mod for World of Warcraft, he doesn't... Obviously, you don't pay for it or anything like that. You can just download it off of Curse. But he takes donations through Patreon, I believe, and that's just for him to, because he doesn't get paid for it, but it's kind of like giving him a tip almost, which you do at a restaurant.
Yeah,
and I know that a lot of the bigger modders out there kind of have something like that,
which to me feels like in what how do I put this? I feel like that's the most justified way for monetization and mods to be involved, because when I look at monetization, my initial thought is, okay, well, this person's done all the work. They've, taken it out of their own time, so on and so forth, to give us this thing that's going to greatly enhance or improve or make the game playable for us, and they deserve compensation for giving that enjoyment. It's kind of like the same way that actors and actresses are paid outrageous amounts, and it's because they bring this level of entertainment to us. And people who do modding, people who make the video games that we pay for much more exciting to play, are kind of just sitting back in the shadows, not really gaining anything out of it. And that's why I like the idea of having things like Patreon, because it's just, here's money, thank you for what you've done. Whereas when you see monetization and other routes, it's, here's a portion of the money for what you've done. I'm just like, no, give them what they deserve, because they've done a lot. People still play your game because of what these people have done, and they deserve every dime for it.
The amount of work that goes into even the minor mods, the amount of knowledge, skill, patience that takes, incredible. Like I've had just some introductory programming classes, like the ones that are essentially just drawing with code. I steam leaking out my ears, my curse words just flowing from my mouth, smacking on my keyboard like a rented mule. I cannot imagine, what these guys go through, or guys and gals go through, just because they like to do it and they want to share. And that is, hats off, applause to all the modders out there. I gotta just add that.
All right, fellas, so I think we're reaching the end of this episode. I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for any sort of closing remarks on this game. We'll start with Mike this week.
I'll say, even with what I've said about 3, New Vegas, and 4, play them all. Give them all a good opportunity, a good shot, because as you've seen from this, we all have our favorite, and they're all vastly different for vastly different reasons. So have some fun with them.
Spence?
All right, it's most likely going to be a very long time before a new Fallout game actually gets released. Not counting Fallout Shelter, which was fun. I still play every once in a while. It's going to be quite a while. So you modders out there that are working on the really big projects, keep them coming, because we need something to tide us over. And when it comes out, I'll probably, if they don't give me a week off of work to play the new Fallout game when it comes out, I'll probably quit.
So, as far as I go, I love the Fallout games. They're all fun. I think I like the post-apocalyptic aesthetic, and I just want to thank Bethesda for getting more people into that kind of jazz and swing music, which is something we didn't bring out this episode.
I have Anti-Sisters and Ink Spots on my phone, because of Fallout.
The music is just absolutely great. I think, all in all, since Bethesda's acquired the property, they've made it even better. They've been able to enhance it, and I think it was a good decision going from that isometric viewpoint to a first/third-person shooter. And then one final thing before we take off, I just want to remind you listeners that, again, we do have a YouTube channel up. It's just going to be... You're just going to look up Nerd Stop on YouTube, and you'll be able to find our episodes there, as well as on our SoundCloud. You can get a hold of us through Gmail at nerdstoppc@gmail.com, or on Twitter at nerdstoppod. And then one final announcement before we end this show completely is there may or may not be an episode next week, because I'm going to be traveling due to a job interview. So, with all that said, this episode's over. We go ahead and say, see you later, nerds. Hey nerds, one last thing. We want you guys to contribute to this podcast by sending in your questions or topics to discuss. And when I say questions, I mean any question about anything. You can reach us on Gmail at nerdstoppc@gmail.com, or on Twitter at nerdstoppod. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for choosing Nerd Stop. Have a nice day.